your family for 50 years.
Yeah.
And George, you for 20. Is that right?
Well, I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Now, and Cyril Jones, your father had this pub from the early 20s, 25, for 50 years, and then in 1977 passed it on to George, who passed it on to the current owner, Ken Cook, in about 96, I think, round about.
87. No, 87.
Right.
87.
Yeah.
We're on from 77 to 87.
Right.
Met that up, right?
Sold
time
it
goes,
97.
Yeah, sold it in 97. We'll just quickly go through the owners of the pub. It was built by Bridget Cruz, you might know, in 150 years ago. That previous year, she had lost her husband, lost their hotel, the Victoria Hotel, burnt down. She was left with 4 children and 3 children up in the cemetery as well. So it was a tough year for Bridget, and what did she do? She went and built this place. She did a great job. I think we should all congratulate her on that and thank her for it. Bridget sold it on, eventually sold it on to Joshua Vines and John McPhee. They had it for a few years, and in 89 it passed on to John Cann. Now the Cann family, there's probably some Canns here, are there? There we go. John passed it on to both Castlemaine Brewing Company and CUB, who had it for about a decade before it was sold to Fay's father. So there haven't been a real lot of owners over the years, and over the 150 years, almost exactly half of that, these two have owned it. So we're very, very lucky to have them here today. And also, I imagine there'll be plenty of other people in the audience who have got some history with the pub. Can you put your hands up if you have? Oh, only one. Who are you?
I'm the nephew of Ernie Burkett. I'm the nephew of Ernie Burkett, who held the lease of this hotel from about 1946 to about 1950, I think, around about that time. And I grew up in Blackwood, went to the Blackwood school and so on.
Oh, great. You might have a few stories for us. Sorry, what's your name?
John Fennell.
John. Okay. Anybody else? Peter, you'd have some stories, wouldn't you? You got some stories? No? You got any ghost stories? Oh, all right. There's been plenty of ghost stories, although George disbelieves it.
Very much so. It's all rubbish.
Yeah, a lot of those stories came from the fact that downstairs for quite some time was a temporary mortuary. Yeah, that's right. The Sweet Girls, they swear by it. Norma, a great-grandmother now, worked in the kitchen for many, many years, and she's got some good ghost stories, but she's refused to come through and tell us. I think they still freak her out. John's got one.
Actually, a lady that died here, her name...
Oh, hang on, John. Not too close.
Actually, the lady that died here, who this ghost story surrounds, a woman called Laura Dalton, and she worked in the kitchen. Her daughters were my cousins, and I don't believe the great ghost stories either, George.
Well, I did. I had the great pleasure of talking to George's daughter, and I said, "Okay, Sandy, what do you think about paranormal activity in the Blackwood pub?" Because I was really hoping that she would disagree with her father. And she said, there is no such thing as ghosts in the Blackwood pub. She said we would have chased them out ourselves because we used to sing and dance till all hours of the morning and would have made so much noise they wouldn't want to have been there. So here I was thinking that Sandy might debunk George's view, but she didn't. Fay, what do you think? Do you think there is any ghosts?
No. What? I'm not going to. I want to hold. No, I don't want to hold.
Oh, no.
But you could.
So any ghosts in your day, Fay?
Eh?
Any ghosts?
No, I have no ghost stories of any description.
Well, I think we've just put that one to bed, well and truly.
Thank you. We have bloody time.
Thanks, Janine.
All right, Fay, let's go back in time a little bit. Back in the days when this pub first opened up, as you saw, the Cobb and Co coach would have been your main way in and out of Blackwood. What would the pub have looked like in those days? I'm not saying that you remember, but how do you think it looked?
Oh, I couldn't say. I think, as I see it today, is what I remember in my mind. I don't think it hasn't been rebuilt, has it? No, I don't think.
No, although the veranda was put on in the 1890s.
Oh, yeah. No, that's about all. Yes, no, I can't really be truthful and remember.
George, how do you remember it when you took over the pub?
How it was when I... Well, the inside of it's been basically the same, except it's been altered. The inside of outside's the same, but inside all different.
Yeah, you're responsible for this upgrade, aren't you, George, in the 70s?
It's a case of had to do it because it was totally inadequate, particularly the kitchen, and the lounge was far too small. So we had to do something about it. Or, as I say, we either had to swim or we sunk. So it had to be done.
So, George, what made you take on the hotel? And what experience did you have as a publican?
Well, my wife had never been in a hotel. She wouldn't. I was a fairly good customer at hotels, and never really thought of being a publican. It just worked out that way. We come up. I was with the SEC, and I was doing a fellow we called out defaults, and you only get called out generally when it was raining and darkness and lightning. I thought, I can't be doing this by 65, so look for somewhere else. And we come up with the police was going to expire, and Cyril was up and went and saw him at the house and said to him, he hunted hard whether he wanted to sell it or not. Anyway, he rang us back in about a month's time and said he was going to sell, and that's the start of it. That was really the beginning. That was all. Yeah. Of it started.
So you put in the kitchen, George, and did you notice a big difference straight away?
Well, we had to wait, and we had to get another loan off the bank, didn't we? And we got a architect in and a local builder, and the kitchen was on its own, and it in my time it was altered about 3 times because of different crowds we used to have. It fell behind. We had to do it to keep up with the meeting.
Val, did you have something to say? Oh, okay. Yeah, you're agreeing. Yeah, Val is is one of the nieces of Cyril, as is Gwen. Put your hands up. There you go. And there's a grandson over there, Andrew. Andrew, I'm sure you've got a lot of stories to tell about the Blackwood Hotel.
I've come up here with my grandparents during the 50s and 60s, I suppose. 60s and 70s, really. It was a hotel that was in a town that was struggling to, like a lot of really small towns in country, rural Australia, struggling to make ends meet. The town would have these bursts of energy. Of course, the pub has been the commercial business that's remained here. Petrol stations have come and gone. The post office has come and gone. And the publicans have come and gone as well, as they've tried to make the pub a viable enterprise. But it's remained as a focal point for the community, I think. Of course, the other institutions in the town, the Historical Society and the Progress Association, so forth, have kept going, and the Easter Carnival and so on. But the hotel has remained as the watering hole, the place that people had. But I would like to say something about it in the sense that of a place that holds, sort of the glue that holds a community together in towns that struggle, like Blackwood. I think maybe Blackwood now really is on a bit of a trajectory to becoming because of its proximity to Melbourne, and now some of the government nonsense on building restrictions have been lifted and so on, that town can go ahead, but the town and the pub will always remain a very important part of that. But yeah, of course it started off in the gold rush days as one of 30 or 40 hotels that were scattered around in a population that I think got to about 40 or 50,000 people for a very brief period of time, in the 4 or 5 years in the middle of the 19th century. Then the economy shifted from that to forestry, wood cutting, agriculture to some extent, and the town shrank, and now it's having a revival. I'm sure that the hotel will be an important part of that revival. But yeah, I always remember it as a place that it just kept going. It's a place that the people that worked hard here, all the publicans and all their staff and that kept the place going, kept the meals going, the bar open in some years when it would have been really tough to make ends meet. And yeah, it's a great place. And I also like to highlight also that the oak tree here next door. You're going to cover that later on? Or?
Yeah, we can cover the oak tree. The Jones family have been instrumental in looking after that giant oak out there. Its history is a little disputed at the moment. We're not sure whether it's older or a little bit younger than the pub, but it's certainly a very old one. It's at least 124 years old. We've put a temporary plaque out there, Fay. You might want to go and have a read of it at some stage. But certainly Fay has been a great defender of that tree. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Not a lot, but I have, kept my eye on it, and nobody was going to touch it. They weren't going to get it done. So I think, it's just been there, and we've kept a good eye on it and made sure that nobody did silly things to it. And you kept it all through? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You got the arborist in about 10 years ago, didn't you?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got heritage listed as well, didn't it? They wouldn't do it.
No, because you had the others.
Ah, okay. Okay, so... Okay, well, we'll try again. So, George, the good times and the bad times running a pub. What were some of the, what were both? What were some of the good times that stick in your mind, and what are some of the bad?
Oh, we used to have, there's a fair bit to that. Margaret and I used to open it, and the young ones used to play up during the night. And we had a lot of good times. They had a pill competition then. We're around all the pubs in Bland. We were one of them, and they were a little snooker to pool every Tuesday night. We'd either travel out or they'd come here. That was good times. And of course, on a Sunday night, after the busy weekend, we'd settle down in the lounge there and have the jukebox going. The good times was a regular tune to play, and they were good times, so relaxing after the. But generally, it was very good running the hotel. The hotel, of course, is the hub of the town. Without the hotel, there wouldn't be a town. A lot of the do-gooders don't perhaps go along with that, but that is the truth of things. Yeah, so, no, we had a lot of good times.
Any dodgy customers?
Oh, I had plenty of them. We had a bloke come in a Mercedes Benz, a nice blonde. He thought, oh, he said he was the publican from one of the towns up in the guys come in and said the night paid by cheque, and that's the last we saw of him, and the cheque is still going, still trying to. Yeah, they all have a try.
What about your good? What about Billy in the Buick?
Oh,
Billy.
there you are, see, straight away. The little white bull, they called him, in Bacchus Marsh. And he had this big Buick. And one night we were talking about gold, and 10 o'clock Sunday night. And Bill said, "You want to see some gold?" Oh yeah, well, what about it? He went out the boot of his Buick, got in the bag, opened up, and there it was, full of gold. Fair dinkum gold. It was quite remarkable to see it, but that was Bill, quite a character.
Did he shout the bar?
No, Bill shout the bar, of course he did. That's why it's so popular.
Thank you, George. John, did you recognise that story?
Not the Buick story.
Oh, okay.
I do have one story here.
Yeah, hang on. I'll come over to you. Stay there.
I do have one story about Laura Dalton and this hotel. It actually created legal history. Ernie Burkett, the lessee, employed Laura Dalton as a cook and roustabout type thing. Anyway, when her life was lost, he took over the guardianship of Margaret and Judith Dalton. And what he did is, when the investigators came out here, they realised that there was a negligence in the kitchen through an electrical fault. He actually created legal history in Victoria, and he sued himself and on behalf of Margaret and Judith. And the case was against him, was won by Margaret and Judith as infants. I think they were about 5 or 6 years old, something like that. And they were awarded compensation, and that compensation was to the tune of £250 each, which was a lot of money in those days. And Ernie, in his wisdom, consulted with the solicitor that represented Margaret and Judith, and he invested the money with that solicitor in their trust account, and they were to receive the money on their 21st birthday. And subsequently, they received the money on their 21st birthday, and it was £506. And the solicitor apparently reinvested it for his own pecunious purposes, and the money was virtually nothing, worth nothing by the time they turned 21. I might also add that I've got a Women's Weekly here. Okay. And it's dated April 1949.
Just hold it up, John.
Yeah. And if you'd like to, it's got the article. We were all called Rainbow Kids here. Ernie and Elmer Burkett actually looked after all of us. There was about 7 kids up there. We lived up at the property called Ambleside now. And so we were brought up here in our infancy. We went to school there. And they had one son called Graham Burkett. So it's in the Blackwood News. I can't remember what edition it was, but I gave it to the editor and it's published there, so if anybody wants to read it, it's not a bad story. But all of us kids moved on and took up various professions and so forth all over the place. And I believe the son Graham lives in Queensland now. Maybe you have to be 7 or 8 years older than me. And so they were very, very good people. I don't know whether anybody's aware of it, but Ernie was a carpenter before he took over the leasehold here. And he actually built a lot of the houses on the right-hand side as you go down towards the Oval. But anyway, if you have a look at the Blackwood News, you'll see this article. It's in the Women's Week.
Thank you for that, John.
And we've got, if anyone's interested, we've got some copies here of the Blackwood, various editions of the Blackwood News over the last 10 years that have been diligently and always, rain, hail, sleet, snow, heat. It's put out every 2 months by Ginny Coyle and Brendan Heir, my co-conspirator here. And so just for a small coin donation, if you'd like to flick through and take one home, you're more than welcome.
George has just remembered a couple more stories about some of the characters.
Well, one character's the late Max Matheson. He was quite a character, and the town will always remember Max. And another one was an old chap who used to live down the road here in the caravan. He was pretty old and dirty. Anyway, he reckons we were making one box of matches out of 2. In other words, we were opening them up and making 2 matches back us out of one. And he was quite fair dinkum about it too, and he used to voice us quite mumbling about pitching his matches. But there was so many of them too hard to remember them all. I remember Ernie Burkett quite well, of course. He was a very good publican, a very, very good man, of course.
Thank you, George. In fact, there's with Max Matheson, there's a little bit of concrete out the front missing, just outside the front door where Max Matheson shot his toe off. Yeah. It is true. Yeah, somebody looked at him when he came with his gun, and someone said, "Is that loaded, Max?" "No, look!" Boom, off it came. Yeah. He used to scare his grandchildren with that missing toe.
He scared his grandchildren with his face.
Yeah. Talking about Max. Max passed away recently, last year or thereabouts, and we have in one of our Blackwood Times over there, we have about 5 pages on Max because he was such a character. If you're interested, go and find it. It's from the end of last year, I think. Might be able to help you with that afterwards. All right, Lisa, where are we?
I just wanted to sort of think about what it was like 150 years ago. If on your way here today you drove down a highway, you might have stopped at McDonald's and got a cappuccino or a latte, or you got a Big Mac, or you got something. So you might have got stopped by roadworks for a little while. But think about how people got to this pub 150 years ago. Think about how they got to this pub 100 years ago, and so on. There wasn't highways, and there wasn't bitumen sealed roads, and it was the long and winding road, literally. And if you think about going on a Cobb and Co carriage, it'd be pretty hard work and pretty dusty and dirty, and you'd be pretty exhausted by the time that you got here. So, but even given that now we have these roads, it wasn't so long ago when I was talking to George that people that they didn't have electricity here and they didn't have water. Now, I do know when I was talking to George that the issue of town water supply was a bit of a contentious one, and it was a bit of the Hatfields and McCoys. You know, in one corner was the people who wanted it, and in the other corner were people that didn't. But I can't imagine cooking now without electricity. I can't imagine not being able to charge my iPhone. So, George, when did the electricity come on?
Early 1980. 1980, no, wait a minute.
62.
Yeah, wait a minute. And you got me.
I think it's
1961.
That's right. I had a 1963 Hull, and it was pretty new in those days. Yeah. And we had a fire come through not long after, early 60s.
So, with the water, you were publican then before the water came through the town, is that right? So what was that like?
Well, everybody thought I was the only one that wanted the water, and there was quite a bit of discussion about it, and quite a lot of opposition to it, and went to a vote, and it was very close too. Nobody, they reckon they had their water tanks, and that was quite adequate for their purposes. And my best friend, he'd built an in-ground pool, and he was that mad about getting the water on. It was unreal. He was just wouldn't hardly talk to me. Anyway, it's done and dusted now.
By the way, talking about Max Matheson, it's in that edition, which is October, November from last year. Chocolate's full of stories. There was a story in there about you and him, George.
Oh, really?
Yeah, remember that time when you you took the fire truck out to, after a service? Max was driving down the hill.
Yeah. Of course, we all come from the pub here, of course. We got to go up to Barry Street. And we'd had trouble with the steering on the truck. It had been reported, and they reckon it was all right anyway. Off we go. We go hurtling. Max is driving. We're driving down the hill to the bridge, and the steering box went. And I said to Max, geez, he's a bit rough. He said, the bloody wheels turned. There's no steering on the bloody thing. Off we went, and he poured it in the gutter up the road. But quite a character. Just that many stories about Max. It's unreal, but they're all gone now.
What do you think keeps a pub going for 150 years? Fay, what do you think?
Oh, I can't say very much because I haven't had all that length of time here. I've been in Melbourne a lot of time. And it's mainly in the school holidays that I ascended on Blackwood, because I had to go somewhere to have your holidays, and so it was there. But there were many a good time there, and the dances were excellent.
That's where you and George were doing a bit of dancing together. Fay told me George was a great dancer. Is that right, George?
Yeah. Super.
Well, I used to get around all right.
I bet you did.
He was an excellent dancer, especially a pivoter, and dancing was different in those days. It was a little rougher. Nevertheless, we had a very enjoyable time. That Wally Sweet was another one of the. I don't think Wally's with us anymore. No?
No, many years ago. No, he's gone. many years ago.
We used to go to the dances and they were great fun. They really were fun.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if anyone wants to move down to this area here, there are plenty of chairs if you wanted to grab yourself one there.
You used to dance at the Royal Mail Hotel, George, is that right?
Royal Mail Hotel at Golden Point.
That's right, yes.
They had a generator run off of jet motorcycles, motor, and the floor, they played Victor Sylvester's records, and the floor was beautiful, a beautiful floor in it.
Glennie says that it was parquet. Oh.
Yes, it was. Another hall was, of course, the dance hall was at Barry's Reef. Little hall up there, and it was rather unique. It was only a very little hall, and kerosene lamps, a big kerosene. And that was the first hall I brought my wife up here to dance, and she wondered what the hell struck her. She didn't think she'd ever come here again. But anyway, it was very good. It's gone now, burnt out, unfortunately. Had a good floor in it.
Wasn't that
Oh, yeah, hang on.
Where you went down and we had to almost get into top gear to get up again? That Barry's Reef? I can't remember now, there was one of them, but you had to get into top gear to go around the hall. No. Oh, they were great fun. They were great days. Nothing like them.
Okay, Glennie's got a little story for us.
Hear me now? One of the hotel's very, very good customers in the late 40s and early 50s his name was Comrade, and he had been a miner, and he lived right, okay, and he lived on the other side of the river. He would walk down Whalebone Road after he'd been to the hotel, and he used to talk to the trees. He used to terrify us as kids. And he lived in a, was it tent, wasn't it, Don? Was it a tent?
Yeah, I think it was a tent.
Yeah, just with a tin roof. And he lived there, I would say, probably for about 15 years. And one night after he'd been to the hotel, it was right in the middle of the winter, the wooden bridge that crossed the Lurdy down below Whalebone. Days later, nobody could see the bridge. Nobody could see the bridge, and Comrade had gone too.
Thanks, Glennie. Dom, do you have a story from back then?
Sort of, sort of a character that used to...
Oh, a bit of a character, of course. You're a bit of a character yourself.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I remember old Scotty used to live up on the road near Long Gully on the road to Trentham, and he always used to come to town about once a week or something like that. He had a Hessian bag that he used to carry his supplies back, and I being a little brat in those days, I used to give him cheek, and he suddenly said, I'm going to put you in this Hessian bag and take you away. Well, I think I won the world running speed record that night, because he really ran down the street after me, and I was really frightened. But from then on, I was very respectful of him. I was cured. But that's one of the characters.
Thanks, Don.
So George, how did you used to get the... We think of deliveries being made every day to shops and hotels and various places, but back in the day when George was publican, it wasn't that easy to get your beer. So how did you used to get it, George?
Well, we had to go to Belen, the railway station, to get it. And the railway blokes weren't very careful with their front end loader, and of course they put it in, instead of going to the petrol, they go into the beer. You go on there and get the key. Here's the key, go over the shed, and there's broken bottles and beer everywhere. Generally, only several cartons, but they made it out. It was quite a regular occurrence. Then they'd have to give us bottles. We'd have to repack the bottles, all other packages, to get them here. That was quite an effort. But we had to go in there every Friday to get the grog. Yeah, at the railway station, Bland, there's never like a wind that blows in Bland, it blows all the time, blow you away. And at the railway station, it was good to come down the railway. Oh, what an effort to get the beer. Yeah.
All that noise over there is coming from the Mathesons. Will you quieten down? What do you think this place is?
How big a voyage was it? We have to go to the bank too, get some change. And then of course we'd have to call in at the hotel, wouldn't we? We'd have to first. No, it was all afternoon. They had to come here and unload it. Had an old international truck, 3-ton truck. Had an old international truck. And we had to load it up and unload it. It was quite one stubby coming up Long Gully.
No wonder it took all afternoon. Lisa, have you got any?
No, I just wondered if anyone else had any questions. I mean, when you think about toilets and running water and the Great Depression, World War II, World War I, this pub has seen it all. And but if anyone has got any questions, Janine?
When are you going to buy the pub back, George?
When are you going to buy the pub back, George?
Thank you. No, I'm too old for anything now. I'm putting it right on my way in the up on my own up there in my dog, and that's where I'm staying. And they're not shitting me, I can tell you that. That's where I'm staying.
Great to see your face beyond the bar again, George, that's for sure.
Any other memories? Any more questions? Recollections? I think we've been so fortunate to have Fay and George with us today, and brought back some memories of days gone by when maybe we thought things were simpler, but I don't think they were really. Do you, Brendan? I think that they were pretty tough times.
I reckon they were tough times.
Everyone, would you like to put your hands together for Fay and George?
Well, thank you, everybody. Last chance for any questions. Go on. Gwen's got a question. Oh, you got something to say? Oh, she hates this. There you go, Gwen.
I wasn't actually in the hotel. I was born after Dad left the hotel, but they had to live, well, just, yeah. The thing I thought of, just mentioning some of the people like Jessie Thompson, Les Armstrong, people like that, Dr. Wisewell, who had run her surgery or her medical things from the
That's where you got your name, isn't it, Gwen?
And I just felt that they should have been brought up as well. I mainly, and Dad helped out sustenance when the depression was on.
And she is really good.
Not so much operations, but she used to see her patients. She used to come across to Ballarat after we left here for a long time.
Yeah.
just the old ones back to the guy. And if there's any sweets that we know where the Gladys was passed on.
Thank you, Gwen. Oh, Don's got a...
Just a quick one.
Hang on, coming around, Don.
Yes, I'd just like to mention that as a great contributor to the cash flow of this establishment in the old days, I can say that George was, in my memory, the best publican. I reckon he was great.
Yay, George!
Yeah, I remember popping in here in the very late 70s for a beer. I got one from George. He was a bit bloody grumpy, I thought. I just kept moving. I came in with... oh, is that it? No, I came in here with some long-haired louts of mine. We were doing the east-west run, where you start at Kilmore and end up in Dalesford. And by the time we got to Blackwood, we were pretty wasted. And George gave us the bum's rush. Thank you, George.
One lunchtime, and we had a lounge full of bikies. They're all there, and Carol's singing out the lunch numbers. She's saying at number 69. Well, the bikies took off. Carol was most embarrassed.
We had to go there, didn't we?
Yeah, we did have to. Well, we didn't have to, but we did. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for coming and listening to these very special guests this afternoon. Thank you very much, and thanks again, Fay and George.
Yeah.